der zentralen Position, nur Schwarze an der Vorsicht, dann ist es Fjortoft, er ist im Strafraum, Tor! Für die Frankfurter Eintracht, 5:1,
Hi and welcome to the German Fußball podcast following a end to the season and now a break, a little holiday, some international games and a lot of transfer rumors. And Dad, it's been a while, but I thought we could sit down here today, have a little chat about all things football, what we've been up to, and then looking ahead to a new season that before we know it will start. But let's start, Dad. How's it winding down a bit now? I guess taking a little break from a lot of traveling during the season.
Yes, I guess my big difference now during holiday, you know, I'm always on as we are following everything that's going on in international football, and especially then Germany and England. But having said that, it's good to not commute every third day back and forth to England. Although I love England, love working there, and I find myself looking forward to the first game. I got a program now. I'm going to do 4 games starting in Burnley against Manchester City, Vincent Kompany against his where he's a legend in Manchester City, of course, starting there. But it was good to have you back, Marcus. We went to 2 national games. We played an event with the Crown Prince family of Norway with Martin Ødegaard, and you were the captain. No, sorry, keeper. You were the captain. Was the Crown Princess. You were the goalkeeper. So it was good. I guess it's a rhetoric question, but it was good to be home.
Yeah, very good to be home. And obviously we went there in huge anticipation of a sold-out Ullevål as Norway hosted Scotland and Cyprus. And you were working for Viaplay on the day, Dad, for Scottish Viaplay. And first of all, what an atmosphere the Tartan Army and the Scots brought to Oslo. That in itself, I think we both very fond of the Scots in terms of their mannerisms, the way they are. But unfortunately, as for the result, obviously they turned around rather late. It wasn't the party we had hoped for. But even still, got to go home. You got to see Haaland, and he scores, what is it, at 3 goals in 2 games, so he didn't disappoint. So that in itself, it was nice. And Norway during the summer is lovely. Unfortunately, it looks harder and harder for us to go to the Euros. We're still depending on a Nations League setup that we don't understand. But I guess on theme with the podcast, some national team that seems to be struggling equally, even though they will be in the tournament, is Germany too, Dad.
Yes, and we do this podcast in 2. We'll first talk about Bayern and what's going on there after Brazzo and Kahn got fired, how they have organized themselves, and then we'll talk a bit about Germany, because remember, Germany will have the Euros in 2024. Will be a fantastic party, will be a fantastic event. The problem is the national team of Germany, the national team of Hansi Flick are struggling big time. But instead of us, Marcus, talking about all the details around Bayern and how they've organized themselves, I've talked to 2 of my good friends, Tobi Altschäffl and Christian Falk. Christian Falk is the head of sport at Bild Zeitung. Tobi Altschäffl is also sportchef there with Sportbild and Bild Zeitung. They both are very influential. Good friend of ours, Marcus, but also good friend of the podcast. And they have sent us this overview of the new organization of Bayern Munich after their CEO and their head of sport, that being Oliver Kahn and Brazzo Salihamidzic, were fired.
Hello, Jan. Hello, Marcus. Here's Christian and
Tobi alias Altobelli.
Yes, we reported today in our podcast Bayern Insider about the sports committee, which is now at Bayern Munich, because they don't have the bosses Kahn and Brazzo, and now they have the Magnificent 7.
The Magnificent 7, it's, for example, Herbert Heiner, president, and of course the 2 old guys, Uli Hoeneß and Karl-Heinz Rummenigge. Rummenigge, he's back in the supervisory board, so he's an official member, and they took him back to Bayern Munich. That's 3 out of 7, so Christian, who else is in there?
very important. Thomas Tuchel has now more power. He can decide, and that's really new, because before Salihamidzic made most decision on his own. He talked with the coaches, but the decision was him. And there is Marco Neppe still. He was the buddy of Hasan Salihamidzic, and now he's working for the older guys, and he's the man who brings the names in for the discussions.
Yeah, he has the knowledge of the market, and there are two other guys, important guys coming from the finance sector. This is, on the one hand, Jan Christian Dresen, the new CEO of Bayern Munich. He was kind of the rival of Oliver Kahn, and he wanted to leave the club, but now he's the new CEO. And there is Michael Diederich, who is the new boss for finances, and who is the guy next to Jan Christian Dresen. That's, I guess, all of the seven. Yes, we have the seven.
Yes, but the interesting names are, of course, the people and the player they discuss, and it's very interesting. You know, they are searching for two positions, the striker and the number 6. And there's one name which is always around and always rumors. Dusan Vlahovic. Salihamidzic didn't want this transfer. He said the striker is not good enough for Bayern Munich. But we heard the name wasn't played in this discussion.
No, they were not talking in this committee, or as we say in German, Sportausschuss, which sounds kind of politician or political. His name was not in there, but of course, midfielder Declan Rice, he is like the big name for Bayern. Thomas Tuchel is a very big fan, but we are not sure if this will work, right?
Yeah, it's getting difficult because Arsenal has more money. He wants to stay in the Premier League. It's quite the same like Harry Kane on the striker position. Bayern Munich don't think they can convince him to come to Germany. So it's a really hard market, because Kolo Muani, he has also many interested clubs in him. One is, of course, United, but Paris is also in the race. So Bayern Munich has a long list of names, but they don't know at the moment which players they can really get.
And one more name, Jan Age, I saw that you jumped on it on Twitter. This is Sofian Amrabat, because there were rumors about him, but we can tell you here, exclusive, he's at the moment not at the list. There are some members of the board who know him and discussed by themselves about him, because he has got an agent very well known at Bayern Munich, Michael Reschke, but Amrabat is not on the list at the moment. We will see what happens.
Yeah, the really list and the really offers are not done before next week. And there's one name. They don't say they're interested, but we think he could be a plan behind the scenes. And it's still Victor Osimhen, because we know Thomas Tuchel likes a striker very much.
He likes Osimhen, and if you read what Uli Hoeneß says, he says a very good striker, but he is very costs a lot of money, and we can't afford him. Maybe that means he wants that we don't think about him, and they in the background manage the deal. So I would not say Osimhen is not a topic anymore.
So that's it for the moment. We keep on trying to get more names for you and for everybody out there. And the last sentence, please translate for the English listeners. A bissl was geht immer.
And that was Christian Falk and Tobi Altschäffl on the reportings around Bayern Munich. That a few things that stick to mind that I find interesting. First of all, the power structure, which we've discussed in plenty, and it is very interesting because it's about a power dynamic within, a special club in terms of how it's run. And now you have these two legends that built Bayern very much to what it is now, back in the mainframe. As they touched upon, Thomas Tuchel with more power, as you'd predicted when Brazzo and Kahn left. But just for our audience, in terms of their return and the overall structure, hierarchy in place now, just, I guess, to follow up on their points, how that will look, and how do you maybe predict it going?
Yeah, and it's interesting because we have talked a lot about this, and I've talked about a lot of the history of Bayern Munich, because you can somehow. Bayern is not a startup, but if you think they are a company, there was a company who had all these kind of success in the 70s, winning the European Cup, winning the Champions League 3 years in a row, with Uli Hoeneß playing as were there, Sepp Maier, Gerd Müller, Franz Beckenbauer, all the legends. And Uli Hoeneß took over the club when he was 27. Can you imagine? He created the modern Bayern. Bayern will win a lot of titles, of course, very solid financially. And people say, well, they're so ahead of everybody else, but they have earned their right to have that because they've been working very hard and doing that. So when Uli Hoeneß then retired, because there is a time when you always have to retire formally, you have to. He stayed on as an honorary president. Karl-Heinz Rummenigge was the foreign minister. He was the politician. He was the lobbyist, the strategist of the club. And although they're not best friends, but they're brothers in arms. You know what I mean? They understand how to give each other space to create Bayern. So the idea is then to take Brazzo, Salahamidzic in as a sport director, Oliver Kahn in as a CEO, and then think of the legacy is former Bayern players. We tried it again, but we've seen a lot of club markers. It's not always depending on experience of your background. It's about the human beings. So you've always got a feeling, not much so Karl-Heinz Rummenigge maybe, but Uli Hoeneß has always been there. Still had his office in Sebenerstrasse, which is the training centrum. So he came in more or less every day, and it was just a matter of time. And I predicted that, got a lot of stick from Bayern, got a lot of stick from brother of Oliver Kahn, certainly in German press, me and Lothar Matthäus. Well, that is a company I would like to be a part of with the legendary Lothar Matthäus, that we ruined part of that. So now they're back. So now they don't have a sporting director. I think their dream is to get Max Eberl from Leipzig in, but he has just been hired to Leipzig. He came from Gladbach, had a timeout. Now he's for Leipzig. He's now responsibility to get Carvalho on loan from Liverpool. Szoboszlai going the other way, although that was Liverpool activating yesterday as we speaking on a Saturday, 1st of July, the 30th of June. They have to activate his clause. So Max Eberl is busy finding replacements for Nkunku, and Seshko is coming, the striker, the young striker is coming from Salzburg and so on. I'm just saying that Max Eberl is the wish candidate. As it is now, Thomas Tuchel acts more like an English manager. He's much more involved in the transfer, and that's one of the reasons. I guess, Markus, as you are the host, you will bring that up. But I guess that is Thomas Tuchel. If you see the players they've been linked to, it's a lot of the players that Thomas Tuchel knows from his time at Chelsea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's interesting, and they touched upon Rice, but also in terms from an English standpoint now, they mentioned Vlahovic, which seems to have they've moved away from, but you have a Harry Kane now as well, which is interesting in terms of whether they can bring him in or not. Looking for a 6, looking for a 9. It's interesting. Just from my observation is, I'm always amazed. I understand it's a strategy, and you've worked for big organizations from a strategic standpoint. So please shed light on it. But if you're linked to all different players, from my standpoint, I think if you report that you're linked to all these players, and more often than not, you don't end up with them because A, financial, B, they might prefer other clubs. I was always struck by the fact that they've linked themselves rather ambitiously to big players. Holland last year, when they, matter of fact, said they weren't interested, but that's another story. How do you see that? Because obviously they'll go in and show a sign of strength. They're Bayern Munich. We should be linked with the best players. But for Bayern's sake, are they kind of caught in this conundrum in which they are obviously a very big club, but they don't have the financial power to compete with other big English club like a Rice, and whether he's valued at 105 million, that's a different matter. But you have the likes of a Kane now as well coming in. How do you see that?
Well, it's interesting that for our English listeners who are maybe bigger fan of English football and German football, it's also interesting to see the dynamic through the journalism in Germany, because Tobi and Christian, Plettenberg, Kevin Hauer from Sport 1, Pletti from Sky, of course. There is a big thing of getting into the lists of Bayern. It's not like Bayern want to say which player we are on. It's just that they do a good journalistic job. So these players are on Bayern's list. I love to annoy these people, these good friends of mine, and I know them very well, all of them. I love to always say that, well, I want Rachel for friends. I can also make a list of women in the world that I would love to have. Probably your mom would have guaranteed me that list because they're not realistic. And sometimes Bayern is not realistic too, but this is the way they do. So they have this meeting, this sporting committee, as Tobi and Christian were talking about. Also interesting, I have to say, compliment to the boys, because that was recorded a couple of weeks ago and we didn't use it before now, but still all the analysis, they were good. They're spot on. Declan Rice, they said it. He's probably too expensive for Bayern. Right. As a number 6, they have Kimmich, they have Goretzka. They will hit Leimer in somehow in that category. So Declan Rice to Liverpool, to Arsenal. Kai Havertz to Arsenal. I think we have to do an episode of your Arsenal. I think that is I was quarreling, had a fight with Stephen Nicol yesterday on ESPN. He couldn't understand in the world why Kai Havertz went to Arsenal, because he doesn't rate him. Okay, fair enough. I think that he would have a great season. But so Tuchel will put Declan Rice is in number 6. I'm with you. How realistic was it that Declan Rice should go from English football, from West Ham, and then now he's ending up moving city, the part of the city just going to Arsenal, where that was the probability that he would stay in England was very, very high, as it was with Erling Haaland at that time. If he left Dortmund, he would go abroad. So then you have Kyle Walker. Yes, Kyle Walker is a great right back. Yes, there are times, you've seen this season, last season, that Pep Guardiola plays with John Stones going into that number 6 position, nearly a number 8 at times. And then he played with 3 centre-half instead of playing with a right back. So maybe the space is going to be a bit tighter for Kyle Walker. But I don't think that is realistic either. Maybe it's coming there, but I get that feeling that Kyle Walker is using Bayern, but mind you, because he's a big name, that he's using Bayern to kind of get a better deal with Manchester City. And he comes to that age where Manchester City will give them 1 and 1 year. There has been a lot of talking about that with Gundogan, that he didn't get 2 or 3 years. He got the 3 years contract at Barcelona. Maybe it was also he has achieved everything at Manchester City. Now he could move on for another adventure, which is fine. He has deserved it, and so on. So, but I will end with the Bayern speculation with Harry Kane, because Harry Kane is an interesting player, because he will break all records. He will score most goals in the Premier League. Mind you, Premier League. This is not Dixie Dean back in the days. And then he's broken the English records. He is a legend of English football. He's a captain of England. So how realistic is that Harry Kane will leave English football, his home country, the home country of football is coming home, going to Germany? Well, the pluses are positive for Bayern is as he has never won a title. They say he has won the Audi Cup in Munich for Tottenham, maybe, but I don't think that counts as a proper title. So he will win titles with Bayern if he goes there. That is a plus for him. If he wants to leave, he got 1 year left of his contract. If he wants to leave Tottenham now, Levy, the chairman, the co-owner of the club, will probably try then to get him abroad, because abroad is easier to accept for Tottenham fans that he's playing up the road at Chelsea or he's going to Manchester United. Fair deal. The thing with Harry Kane is that this summer, Tottenham decide where he wants to go. In 1 year time, Harry Kane decide where he wants to go, because then he got a free transfer. He's a boss man. And they got a new coach, your friend from Celtic, one you rate highly, Markus, Postecoglou. Is that correct? Yeah, Postecoglou, the Australian, who I hope get time to sort out Tottenham, because he's shown in every club that if he gets time, he will sort it out, which he will Tottenham as well. I'm absolutely sure about that. I can also see the players he takes out. He has a plan. He get Maddison in. Is Tottenham all written all over him? So Levy can hope that he will keep Harry Kane for a year. A year is a long time. A lot of things can happen. Bayern can get Osimhen, Muani from Frankfurt, then there is no seats available. So I think that Levy, in his mind, is thinking that if I just get him to stay, I can get him another contract, a big contract. Maybe there is a clause in his contract that he can leave. Maybe we'll do the same as Cristiano Ronaldo did at Manchester United. Stay for one more year. I will let you go to Real Madrid, as Sir Alex Ferguson said at that time. His contract was not up, so it's a different situation. So I think that the probability of Harry Kane, I've always been skeptical to that. Not that it is a great deal. For German football, for Bayern Munich, it would be a fantastic deal. I've lived so many years, Marcus, that I can remember when Kevin Keegan went from Liverpool. Kevin Keegan may be one of the most popular player at that time in the whole world, and he went to Hamburger Sportverein. That was a big deal. The German football would need that in a time when Nkunku, Szoboszlai, Bellingham, Haaland over the last year just leaving the Bundesliga. So it would be a great deal for German football. But I'm a bit skeptical. I can't see the England captain going there. They say, Bayern, that they are talking to his camp. He is advised by his family. I think it's his brother who is doing that for him. And they say it's a positive signs that it will come. But I still can't see it. I see people say 50-50. I think that is very optimistic for Bayern. For a lover of German football as I am, I would love the deal to come through, because there are enough stars in English football. You need a German, a great player. That would be a fantastic signing for Bayern, of course.
Yeah, and just to conclude on that point, I think you entered now a market in which you have players like a Rice and a Kane, for that matter, and players amount also. Players with 1 year left of their contract, but still valued very highly. Also with Havertz, Arsenal were ultimately the ones that paid what Chelsea were demanding in a way. So there is that balance between what are the available offers on hand, and of course next season when he's out of contract there'll be all the more plenty, but even still it'll be interesting to see that where he goes. If we shift into Germany, then Dan, should we do that?
I just want to say, Marcus, just before I just was thinking of it, we were a bit negative of the attraction of Bayern. They have still got the capability to get their players. They are very linked. It seemed that is done. Kim, the central defender at Napoli, I like him. He's a big guy. That's one of those I like, because it looks like they will lose Hernandez to PSG. They can maybe lose Pavard. He could be on the move. He's been linked to Liverpool. Could go to PSG as well. And they got Guerreiro, that Tuchel knows from his time at Dortmund. It's a very great signing. He's a flexible player. He can kind of go in there, positive guy, going forward. So they have done some good things, and you have Manuel Neuer coming back. There is a thing that I just read a big story talking about Tobi and Christian. I read a big story in Sportbild about Manuel Neuer, who somehow is the powerhouse of German football, doing this stupid ski trip, or the stupid thing was that he was injured, of course, missing the season. Still so influential. Tapalovic, his goalkeeping coach, was fired. He did a interview with our friend Honigstein. He more or less slammed Bayern. Still no punishment for him. Germany, and that is our bridge to Germany. Germany is terrible at the moment, so he strengthened his position there as well. It could end up a Jan Sommer, who has a clause. He has the possibility to see how it develops when Manuel Neuer comes back. The goalkeeper they got from Gladbach, who won a title, but he can be on the move. You have Nübel, a bit younger, that is on loan to Monaco. He could leave. So Manuel Neuer is a powerhouse of German football, and do they need it, Marcus? Because I guess your observations are where I stopped you in your analysis of the German football, the German national team. You are spot on.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you have the power structure there, in which you have someone like Manuel Neuer, Thomas Müller, holding substantial positions. I mean, how many times did we discuss last season that in terms of, Thomas Müller wasn't playing, Nagelsmann benched him for that, he's not da. And the same seems to remain, even though they're not involved with the national team still. the position which Bayern, but also Germany, most crucially right now, going to the Euros next season, they're in this, a really terrible state in which, okay, should we bring back the experience? Exactly like you say, the German team being worse strengthens their position all the more, just in the sense that, of course, they've had fantastic careers, and without that, we wouldn't have even had that discussion about how they still have a stronghold. But as for Germany, you have a Bayern team that were convincing last season, and whether it's a correlation, there certainly is a correlation, but causation in the sense that poor Bayern affects a poor Germany in a sense as well. And you have players going into this new season, Sané, Gnabry, in terms of a bit unsure, like contract situations going in, haven't had the best of seasons. Germany aren't that very good. I'm just going in circles here, that basically just reiterating what I'm saying. But it seems like someone like Flick, and now they've brought in others to analyze the situation in Germany for the national team, haven't quite figured out what is going wrong and how to fix it.
No, and I think it's a good observation. And if you see Germany when they've been at their best, there's always the core group of players that are from Bayern. So a good Bayern, good Germany, as you were saying, starting in '74 when they won it. Just for a fun fact, when they won their first World Cup title, that was in 1954 in Switzerland. Then the core group of players that were from Kaiserslautern, who was the big team. There is a great film about
I was about to say, that is a good movie.
Oh, Wunder von Bern, the miracle of Bern. I will recommend everybody, if you find it on YouTube or whatever. That is a great football film, because it's all about the proudness of Germany. This is 9 years after the Second World War. That was the first time Germany came abroad again after the embarrassment of the Second World War. They were back there, and they had a great team with Fritz Walter being the great stars. And the reason I put that up, Marcus, is that it's serious now. It's not only that they have a bad national team, it's also that they are the host of the Euros. So the worst thing that could happen to German football is if that the Germans would make a fantastic Euro. That's going to be a fantastic event. I'm going to work there. I'm so looking forward to that, Marcus. That's going to be fantastic. The Germans, they can host anything. And it's also that in 2006, when they had the World Cup, they were third. Jürgen Klinsmann still managed to come out of that as winners, because that was the first time that Germany could show all the world the proudness of being German. There were flags everywhere. There was an enthusiasm around the national team that you need. And they want to copy that. They want to be a host again, although it's now will be 18 years after that. They still want to replicate that, and then you need a good national team. They put Hansi Flick there. They think that is a great idea. He's a good lad. He done well for Bayern. He can take the Bayern player. He knows how to treat the Bayern player. The problem is the national team is shite. We watched them, Marcus. We taped the games, and we watched them again, and we saw everything. They are playing without enthusiasm. The players, of course, they want to do well, but it doesn't seem that they want to do well. There is no balance in the team. There are players in that team that overestimate themselves. They don't have a striker. They don't have a goal scorer, and so on and so on. And this is Murphy's Law, because when that getting in circle and they start to have bad thoughts about the German national team, so this is bad. But the problem is, I think, with German football is that they think that happened today or yesterday. It didn't. It started in Russia, terrible World Cup. In Qatar, they were bad. They were very bad. But the analysis of the World Cup, we had one bad half. No, you didn't. You didn't look like a team that everybody else, even the Saudis. Remember the Saudis when they beat Argentina? They were united. They were all these teams that show this. The reason I use Saudi Arabia is that because you saw in their eyes how much they wanted to win the football game, how proud they were of their country, or Morocco, those kind of teams. And then you have these sad teams like Belgium, Denmark, and Germany's been in there. So the problem is, I think, that the diagnosis, they haven't found it yet. And you need to get that before you have a treatment. Could it happen that Hansi Flick would be fired before the World Cup? Yes, he could. Because he said now, the president of the German FA said, well, Hansi Flick will sort this out in September. Remember that we have another couple of games in September. But I doubt it, Marcus. So I think it could end up, Rudi Völler is being the man in charge for this commission. There are so many commissions now in German football, and Rudi Völler is running one of them. He will remember back. He knows his history. He had to take over the national team. They went as outsiders to South Korea, Japan World Cup in 2002. They ending up being Vice-Weltmeister. They lost the final. They were the better team in the final, by the way. Oliver Kahn made that mistake, a rebound from Ronaldo, the Brazilian Ronaldo. 2006, some months before the World Cup, there was a crisis. There was a scandal how bad this German national team was. They ending up with Klinsmann and Löw as assistant, and I guess Hansi Flick was around as well. They've been around for 100 years, so it can change. But I'm not very optimistic on behalf of German football at the moment. They need some wins on and off the pitch, and that's why to end it, Marcus, with my not a rant, but I'm passionate about German football. They would need that kind of Harry Kane signing. They would need a great star coming there to give them some optimism in and around the German football, because German football has always been good, but they've been optimistic when either Bayern is doing well international in the Champions League, or Germany done well as they've done historically so many times in the World Cups and Euros.
Before we wrap up, Dad, I want to ask, it's obviously a lot of factors involved in this deterioration in the results of the national team. But with commissions being set up, etc., I guess you can ask this two ways. But A, what are they looking for to be the problem? Or B, what is the problem? Where has it gone wrong? And that's how we can go back to grassroots. We can go. So I understand we could do an entire, have a commission based on it. But what do you think, like overarching kind of themes, do you think?
Well, very difficult. If I had the answer, I would probably be one of these commissions. Having said that, you have to win the World Cup to win one of them. There are so many fantastic names in the commissions of German football. I think you put your finger on it. There is a long-term thing. Remember when Matthias Sammer came in German football, this is 20 years ago, and he sorted out German football. They started doing well. They got great young talents. There are so many young talents. There's so many great players in German football. I'm not sure that these players are well developed. I don't think the structures are good enough.
Even the under-21s now went out in the group stages.
Exactly.
Israel, lost to Czech Republic, lost to England.
Exactly.
Penalties in Israel, but even still.
Good point. And if you see England, who have learned from what Matthias Sammer did for Germany, they understood that it's good to have under 17, under 18, under 19, under 20, under 21 teams that are doing well internationally, because then you got experience. Seeing Norway now, we were there, although we went out in the group stage, fantastic experience for the boys to take into the next step of their career. On a short-term thing, I think it's the general optimism got to come back. That kind of a consequence of that is that you will look for short-term solutions. Yes, you can have a long discussion why there are no German strikers around except our friend Füllkrug. There's no one. Not even young players.
It's always been like that. You remember even looking back, I mean, you obviously have the undisputed World Cup king, Miroslav Klose.
Yeah.
But even still, like, I'm trying to think of, like, Miroslav Klose played for a long time for that German national team.
Yeah, good point.
Credit to him, but it's also testament to what other options they had available.
Yeah, Klose they haven't had a number 9, a proper number 9 since Klose. So that is a long-term thing, how they do develop that. Maybe it's something with the structure of German football. They get so many strikers in, because it has to be said, the level of strikers coming into English football got to be higher. But in German football, you can just put them in. And if you have a good striker, the team will do well. So you can kind of more risk it and go in there. So as we land, Marcus, I think that the options for the German national team is as follows. September, there will be probably, I think they have 2 games. Hansi Flick need to show not only a team winning football games, he got to show that he has a team that is passionate about playing football. They have to show enthusiasm. They have to show that, listen, people, in 10 months' time, we'll be ready. We'll be ready to make you proud. If he doesn't do that in September, if he gets those kind of results, I can see him being fired. I can see him being moved. And that will be hard for the German Football Authority to do because they love Hansi Flick. There's no one who doesn't like Hansi Flick. He's a great, great lad. And he's so likable guy. So what could they do? Well, they could get Julian Nagelsmann. Is he still around? So you take Julian Nagelsmann in who couldn't treat the Bayern players maybe, or does that sound funny? They have one dream, Marcus, and I don't want to scare the Liverpool fans. German football got one dream. This is like Jesus. It's like everybody else. Elvis is alive again. They want to see Jurgen Klopp making a press conference and say, listen, people, I see you are struggling. I will just finish the season with Liverpool. I will find an assist that can kind of do the team. I will be the mind behind everything that's going on. But when we get to the Euros 2024, the first game, I will be there. I will walk out with the team. I will give you hope. I will give you love and passion, enthusiasm. That is the wet dreams of every German football fan. Will it happen? I doubt it. But historically seen, Ernst Happel, one of my heroes, Austrian guy, he came in and took Holland in 78. He just did a World Cup for them. We had other examples in the history of football as well. So this is the wet dream. But I think that the realistic dream is that Hansi Flick will try to sort it out in September. And he got to see that the dream doesn't turn into a nightmare, because then I think the pressure on Jurgen Klopp will be very, very intense. And he will probably say, I can't do both, but let's see what's happening. German football is in a bit of a crisis at this time, and they need a savior to, of course, save them.
Yes. And I think that should just be the end. That you got to be all excited for the Euros now with Jurgen Klopp on the sidelines. Fantastic. Thanks, Dad. We'll reconvene at a later point, talking a little bit about everything, as I'm sure we will do throughout the summer, as there is a lot of stuff happening. But until next time, Dad, thanks a lot.
Auf Wiedersehen.